ক্যামেরা রোলিং অ্যাকশন
2/1 take 1
আচ্ছা ছবিটার ভিতর আছে কি বল এক তুই ছাড়া
আমি তো আছি Isn't that enough?
Nobody thought that the cinema was a very reliable profession or one should go into filmmaking. Films of something to enjoy. We were running the film society. We were anxious to study films, to understand them better. So my education really is based on these extremely well-written, well-directed, well-shot, well-acted films of the 30s and 40s.
As the first rays of the sun grace the city of joy, we embark on a journey through time, tracing the footsteps of a visionary, a genius who redefined cinema, Satyajit Ray. In the land where the Ganges whispers tales of the past, a prodigy was taking his first steps. Born into a family of artists and poets, young Satyajit was a dreamer. In the bustling lanes adorned with art and literature, a young Ray nurtured his creativity, sketching not just figures, but the dreams of a new India. Satyajit Ray was born on the 2nd of May 1921 in an intellectual and affluent family in Calcutta, India. His grandfather, Upendra Kishore Ray, was a distinguished writer, painter, a violin player and a music composer. He was also a pioneer in half-tone block making and founded one of the finest presses in the country, U. Ray and Sons. He died 6 years before Satyajit Ray was born. His father, Shukumar Ray, 1887 to 1923, the eldest son of Upendra Kishore, studied printing technology in England and joined the family business. He too was an eminent poet, writer and illustrator of nonsense literature in the tradition of Lewis Carroll and Edward Lear. Shukumar Ray fell ill the year Satyajit Ray was born with the dreaded tropical disease of the time, Kala Azar. He regularly contributed poems, stories and illustrations to Sandesh, a children's magazine in Bengali, which Satyajit Ray's grandfather had started publishing and printing. Needless to say, the child Satyajit was fascinated by the block making and the printing process. In the 1880s, the Ray family had embraced Brahmo Samaj, a sect within Hindu society. It was a time when both Western literature and orthodox Hindu practices, such as sati, were prevalent at the same time. The progressive outlook of the Brahmo Samaj strongly influenced Satyajit Ray's work. Many of Ray's films would later show this progressive outlook and a strong aversion to religious fanaticism like Devi, Charulota, Teen Konna, Shodgoti, Ghore Baire and Ganashotru, to name a few. At the age of 8, Satyajit joined Baliganj Government School. Until then, he had been homeschooled by his mother. While still at school, he became a film fan, regularly reading Hollywood trivia in magazines like Picture Goa and Photoplay. Western classical music was his another interest. He would often pick up gramophone records at flea markets. He matriculated when he was just short of 15. Upon his mother's insistence, Satyajit joined college. At the Presidency College, Satyajit read science for the first 2 years, and for the third year, he switched to economics. At the cost of academics, Satyajit was spending more and more time and energies in pursuit of his two interests dear to him: watching films and listening to Western classical music on his gramophone. In films, his interest had shifted from stars to directors, savoring offerings of Alfred Hitchcock, Ernst Lubitsch, John Ford, Frank Capra, and William Wyler. He graduated in 1939. At the age of 18, he decided to give up further studies. Even though he had no formal training, he was planning to become a commercial artist. He had a natural flair for drawing. His mother, however, felt that he was too young to take up a job. She suggested that he should join as a student of painting at Shantiniketan. After initial resistance, he agreed. In 1940, he joined Rabindranath Tagore's Vishwabharati University at Shantiniketan. The desire to learn about Indian arts to be successful as a commercial artist, mother's wishes, and the lure of Tagore perhaps were too strong to ignore. Trips to nearby villages for sketching exercises were his first encounters with rural India for the city-bred Satyajit Ray. During this period, he discovered Oriental art, Indian sculpture and miniature painting, Japanese woodcuts and Chinese landscapes. Till then, his exposure to art had been limited to only the Western masters. For the first time, he had begun to appreciate qualities of Indian art. The countryside tours drew his attention to use of small details in Indian art to signify a bigger meaning, a quality that his films would later demonstrate prominently. As the year 1942 was coming to an end, Ray missed the city life and his inability to see films at Shantiniketan. Soon he was making weekend trips to Calcutta, and in December 1942, Ray left Shantiniketan for good. In April 1943, Satyajit Ray joined a British-run advertising agency, DJ Kema, as a junior visualizer. He spent the next 13 years here, until he became a full-time filmmaker after the success of Pother Panchali. Ray was fascinated by typography, both Bengali and English, and produced many innovative advertising campaigns. His designs of two typefaces, Ray Roman and Ray Bazaar, would win an international competition in 1971. He brought in more of Indian motifs and calligraphic elements to advertising. Later, his love for typography and illustration would often surface in credits and the publicity posters of his films. His senior colleague at DJ Kema, Mr. D.K. Gupta, started a publishing house, Signet Press, and Ray was roped in to do the cover jackets. In 1944, D.K. Gupta decided to bring out an abridged version of a novel by Bibhuti Bhushan Banerjee, Pother Panchali. Until then, Ray had not read much Bengali literature. The book itself made a lasting impression. This long association with Signet Press for designing covers and illustrations for books also provided Satyajit Ray with an opportunity to read Bengali literature. Some of the books he designed the jackets for would later be adapted by him for films. The aftermath of the World War saw Calcutta filled with American soldiers. The cinemas were showing latest Hollywood productions. It provided Ray and his friends a feast of films. In 1947, with a few friends, like Bungshi Chandra Gupta, Ray co-founded Calcutta's first film society. Battleship Potemkin was the first film they screened. Soon, Ray started writing and publishing articles on cinema in newspapers and magazines, both English and Bengali. A collection of such articles written during the period 1948 to 1971 was later published as Our Films, Their Films. Meanwhile, Ray had developed another interest, writing screenplays for his own pleasure. He would take a story or novel for which a film had been announced and would write a screenplay. He would then compare his screenplay with the finished film. Sometimes he would even write a second version after seeing the film. In 1949, renowned director Jean Renoir had come to Calcutta to scout locations for the film The River. Ray walked into the hotel where Renoir was staying and sought a meeting. Soon Ray was accompanying Renoir on his trips in search of locations to the outskirts of Calcutta during the weekends. Seeing his enthusiasm and knowledge about cinema, Renoir asked him if he was thinking about becoming a filmmaker. To his own surprise, Ray said yes, and gave Renoir a brief outline of Forte which he had recently illustrated. A business trip to London in 1950 proved a turning point. Ray and wife travelled to London by ship, a journey that took 16 days. With him, he was carrying a notebook in which he had made some notes on making a film of Forte. He wanted the film to be shot in actual locations, no makeup, with new faces. The reaction to this had been negative from his friends. Shooting on locations with unknown actors was thought to be a totally unfeasible idea. In this 6-month-long stay, Ray saw about 100 films, including Vittorio De Sica's Bicycle Thieves. Bicycle Thieves made a profound impression on Ray. Later, in the introduction of Our Films, Their Films, he wrote, "All through my stay in London, the lessons of Bicycle Thieves and neorealist cinema stayed with me. The film had reconfirmed his conviction that it was possible to make realistic cinema with an almost entirely amateur cast and shooting at actual locations." He had completed his treatment of Forte on the return journey to India. In 1955, the world witnessed Forte. It wasn't just a film. It was a canvas of raw emotions, painting a vivid picture of rural Bengal. On the 27th of October 1952, he set out to take the first shot. The scene was the famous discovery of train by Oppu and his sister Durga in the field of cash flowers. One day's work with camera and actors taught me more than all the dozen books, Ray would write later. The cast was a mix of professional actors and a few with no prior experience.
এই যে তোর খুঁতখুঁতেমি এটা খুব ভালো সাইন এর মানে তুই উন্নতি করবি
করব আলবাত করব I will go to the top.
Only Shubir Banerjee, who played Oppu, Karuna Banerjee, who played Oppu's mother, and the villagers, who played other smaller roles, had no prior experience of acting. The rest had either acted in 1 or 2 films or theatre. Ray wanted Pandit Ravi Shankar, renowned sitar maestro, to compose music for the film. Ravi Shankar, due to his tight touring schedule, was able to see only half of the film and recorded the music in a non-stop session of about 11 hours. It was a marathon session and left us exhausted but happy, because most of the music sounded wonderful. Ray would write, "In my years with Oppu," many years later. Due to a shortage of time, however, Ravi Shankar could not provide music for a few sequences. Subrata Mitra, Ray's cinematographer, devised music for the sweetmeat seller as he goes peddling his sweets. Mitra also played sitar for a sequence. A few months later, on the 26th of August 1955, Forte was finally released in Calcutta.
ওই তো সোনা ডাকার মাঠ তারপর ধান ক্ষেত তারপর রেলের রাস্তা একদিন যাবি
Using his advertising experience, Ray had designed 5 billboards, including a full-sized 8 feet by 20 feet one. It had Oppu and Durga running in the vast landscape of dark monsoon clouds, with Forte being the only legend. The film did only moderately well in the first 2 weeks. By the 3rd week, however, the word spread and it was running packed at 3 cinema houses. The cinema house, however, had only booked for 6 weeks. It was then shown in another chain for 7 more weeks. It was a box office success. From the bylanes of Calcutta to the grandeur of Cannes, Ray's cinema transcended borders. His conversations with fellow maestros enriched the global cinematic narrative. The film won the special jury prize for the best human document. Auteur Panchali went on to win a dozen-odd prizes at home and film festivals abroad, including Best Actress for Chuni Bala for a role as Indit Thakuron at Manila. The recognition persuaded him to take the plunge. He decided to give up advertising and turn to filmmaking as a full-time career. And thus began a long and illustrious career. His first film, Auteur Panchali, had established Satyajit Ray as a world-class director. Every frame, every note, every sketch bore the mark of Ray's genius. His meticulous attention to detail was legendary. On set, Ray was both a commander and a comrade. His ability to extract the best from his cast and crew was unparalleled.
সাহিত্যে কেন ভাই ওটা তোমারও দরকার
সাহিত্যে কেন ভাই ওটা তোমারও উপর থেমে যাবে তোমারও সঙ্গে রিঅ্যাকশনটা এসে যাবে
আচ্ছা
বুঝতে পারছো
সাহিত্যে কেন ভাই ওটা তোমারও
এই দেখলাম দেখি ওদিকে তাকালাম
ন্যাচারালি সেটা এই যে
The success of Auteur Panchali gave Ray total control over his subsequent films. In his numerous functions, writer, director, casting director, composer, since 1961. Two sequels based on the novel Oporajito, The Unvanquished, 1956, Opur Shangshar, The World of Opu, 1959, completed the acclaimed Opu trilogy.
माँ की रो अत्ते काल किया लगलो माँ हम पूरा जिला में सेकंड भेल छे की भेल छे सेकंड
Oporajito, his second film, was about his young protagonist's journey towards freedom from his mother's protection and love. The film won the Golden Lion in Venice. What followed was a long career as a world-class filmmaker. Until 1981, he would make a feature-length film every year. His later films included Porosh Pathor, The Philosopher's Stone, 1958, Jalshakhar, The Music Room, 1958, Devi, The Goddess, 1960, Teen Konna, Two Daughters, 1961, Kanchenjunga, 1962, Charulata, The Lonely Wife, 1964, Pratidwandi, The Adversary, 1970, Shatranj Ki Khilari, The Chess Players, 1977, and Ghare Baire, Home and the World, 1984.
চল রে চল সবে ভারত সন্তান মাতৃভূমি করে আহ্বান চল রে চল সবে ভারত সন্তান মাতৃভূমি করে আহ্বান বীর দর্পে পৌরুষ গর্বে সাধ রে সাধ সবে দেশের কল্যাণ চল রে চল সবে
এখানে কি ওয়াইড অ্যাঙ্গেল দিয়ে ক্লোজ করে নেব 32 দিয়ে
ভালো অফ ম্যাডাম অফ
দেখো ক্যামেরা দেখো হ্যাঁ দেখো হয়তো আরো কাছে যেতে হবে আমরা বিগ ক্লোজ চাই
Beyond the realms of fiction, Ray ventured into the heart of reality, crafting documentaries that echoed the pulse of society, narratives that held a mirror to the world. A storyteller at heart, Ray's pen danced on paper, creating tales that resonated with both the young and the old. About 40 years of filmmaking with a film a year was interrupted by his fragile health in the mid-1980s. Ray's Ghare Baire, Home and the World, based on a novel by Rabindranath Tagore, was a return to his first screen adaptation. While shooting, he suffered 2 heart attacks, and his son, Sandeep Ray, completed the project from his detailed instructions. Ill health kept Satyajit Ray away from active filmmaking for about 4 years. In 1989, he resumed making films with Isban's An Enemy of the People as the basis for his Ganashatru, Enemy of the People, 1989. This was followed with Shaka Proshaka, Branches of the Tree, 1990, and Aguntuk, The Stranger, 1991.
This year, the Academy Board of Governors has voted to award an honorary Oscar to the great Indian filmmaker Satyajit Ray.
In 1992, he accepted a Lifetime Achievement Oscar from his sickbed in Calcutta through a special live satellite television event, and also Bharat Ratna, the jewel of India, the ultimate honor from India.
Well, it's an extraordinary experience for me to be here tonight to receive this magnificent award, certainly the best achievement of my movie-making career. As a small schoolboy, I was terribly interested in the cinema, became a film fan, wrote to Diana Durbin, got a reply, was delighted, wrote to Ginger Rogers, didn't get a reply. Then, of course, I got interested in the cinema as an art form, and I wrote a 12-page letter to Billy Wilder after seeing Double Indemnity. He didn't reply either. Well, there you are. But I have learned everything I've learned about the craft of cinema from the making of American films. I've been watching American films very carefully over the years, and I love them for what they entertain, and then later loved them for what they taught. So I express my gratitude to the American cinema, to the Motion Picture Association, who given me this award and who made me so proud. Thank you very, very much.
Satyajit Ray died on the 23rd of April, 1992. In the words of the genius himself, cinema's characteristic forte is its ability to capture and communicate the intimacies of the human mind. In a world stage adorned with accolades, Ray stood tall, yet humble, a beacon of grace and humility, his genius echoing in the annals of cinematic history.